Dr. Fauci made a statement saying that he was going to quit. This is the statement of an absolute narcissist. I read this statement and let's read it together, shall we? Because I suffered through it, so I think you should too. Statement by Anthony S. Fauci, MD. This is on the NIAID website of the NIH. He says, as of August 22nd, 2022, he says, I am announcing today that I will be stepping down from the positions of Director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID, and Chief of the NIAID Laboratory of Immunoregulation, as well as the position of Chief Medical Officer or Advisor to President Joe Biden. I will be leaving these positions in December of this year to pursue the next chapter of my career. By the way, put a pin on that phrase, the next chapter of my career. We'll circle back to that in a moment. Fauci says, it has been the honor of a lifetime to have led the NIAID, an extraordinary institution, for so many years and through so many scientific and public health challenges. I'm very proud of our many accomplishments. I have worked with and learned from countless talented and dedicated people in my own laboratory at NIAID, at NIH, and beyond. To them, I express my abiding respect and gratitude. Over the past 38 years as NIAID director, I love, by the way, this type of statement. I love when they get into what they're the proudest of or what they were the most privileged to be a part of, because this really shows you how this person views their own legacy, or how they, more importantly, how they want you to view their own legacy. And this is what Fauci wants us to think of him. He says, I have had the enormous privilege of serving under and advising 7 presidents of the United States, beginning with President Ronald Reagan, on newly emerging and re-emerging infectious disease threats, including HIV/AIDS, West Nile virus, the anthrax attacks, pandemic influenza, various bird influenza threats, Ebola and Zika, among others, and of course, most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. I am particularly proud to have served as the chief medical advisor to President Joe Biden since the very first day of his administration. Okay, we know he's a leftist. We know he's a hack. But each and every one of the things he listed, HIV/AIDS, Dr. Fauci botched that up. Dr. Fauci told the American people during the HIV/AIDS crisis that every American was at equal risk of contracting HIV/AIDS. He did the same thing during the HIV crisis that he did during COVID, and that he's now trying to do with monkeypox. No, you are not of equal risk. Everyone is not of equal risk of getting AIDS. You are at high risk of getting HIV/AIDS if you use drugs, if you are an intravenous drug user, if you share needles, basically, or if you are promiscuous sexually, especially gay men having sex with other gay men. The risk is not the same for me as it is for someone who attends a gay orgy or someone who is a drug user on the streets of San Francisco. It's not an equal risk. But Dr. Fauci perpetuated that narrative back during that crisis. West Nile virus, the anthrax attacks, pandemic influenza. Let's start with West Nile. So West Nile virus, we were told, would sweep the country. We were told it was this terrible disease that would kill us all. It did not. We didn't have a vaccine against that. There was nothing the public health establishment did to stop that. It simply wasn't what they predicted that it would be. It wasn't what they were trying. The fear that they were trying to instill in us was not accurate. The pandemic influenza. The flu vaccine, I felt this way about the flu vaccine long before COVID. The flu vaccine is a joke. The flu vaccine sometimes has like 10, 12, 20% efficacy against certain strains of influenza. They never know what strain of influenza is going to circulate in our country. The flu vaccine simply doesn't work, and it has side effects too. Not as serious as the experimental mRNA vaccine side effects, but the flu vaccine is one of the biggest frauds, one of the most useless medical procedures that people are pressured into, that profit big pharma that exists in our country today. Oh, but Dr. Fauci, surprise, surprise, he had his thumb in that. He had his finger stirring in that pot. Of course he did. The bird flu, by the way, the bird flu was predicted by the public health establishment to be this ginormous global pandemic. The bird flu is going to sweep the globe, we were told, because birds fly around the world. No one's going to be immune to this. We're not going to survive this. The same people who modeled COVID, I'm talking about Neil Ferguson in the British guy. You remember him, the guy who predicted that just 3 million Americans were going to die within the first 3 months of COVID. The guy from Imperial College London. That guy was the same guy that modeled the bird flu, that told us that it was going to be this global pandemic that nobody was going to survive. Of course, it wasn't a global pandemic, and we survived. Ebola and Zika, same thing. These were not global pandemics, and Dr. Fauci was not responsible for them not being global pandemics, but that's what he's proud of because he has a pattern, he has a template, he has a playbook, and he uses this over and over and over, and that's his legacy. He wants you to think that he's some kind of savior of the world who came in and solved all these viruses. He is the science, remember? But no, what he's proudest of is working for Joe Biden.